thank Ulster County for the opportunity. The last 2 years have been a delight to work with Art Snyder and Steve Peterson. Art's been very open throughout the process to give us access to, whether it's sites or people to talk to. He's aided the process greatly. I mean, I've called him numerous times when he's down at Myrtle Beach, I think is where I usually catch him, on vacation. So he's been very helpful throughout the process, and really, contributed to bringing us information and not biasing the direction of the project in any way. So it's a good, open process, and really allowed us to kind of look at Ulster County and come up with a pragmatic, cost-effective solution. A little bit about the process. We just want to kind of go real quickly through an overview of the process. We always start with an existing systems review. Basically, this looks at your current system, looks at how you guys do things today, because obviously how you do them today is kind of what you need in some sense. It also looks at, we see deficiencies. And Ulster County is very similar to, many areas in New York. We see a very similar operation, very similar progression of bands. The next step then, I think it's fine from a visual.
Yep.
Okay. The next thing was really operational enhancement. What we do is we go out to the various user groups, talk to the fire departments, talk to the EMS services, police. We did that numerous times. We had a large group meeting with the fire department, then went individually kind of by region throughout the county. So we felt we had a pretty good overview of that. In addition, we did a survey that provided some information. Again, Ulster County, very typical of a lot of counties in New York, the age of system and operation. We currently work throughout the Catskills. We're working with Orange to the south, Sullivan, Delaware, Schoharie, and Otsego County. Greene County, in addition to that. We've also worked in the past with, say, Saratoga County, and currently working with Rensselaer County as well. So we have a good flavor of what New York systems, how they operate. They have a real good relationship with the state that brings in that element. And we worked with the Catskill Consortium quite a bit in kind of devising that system, and also the Hudson Valley Consortium, which includes Orange and some of the other counties to the south. The second phase of the project is really research resources, and given your proximity to New York City, this is probably the worst spectrum environment in the country. It is the worst spectrum environment in the country. You have a large city, obviously, soaking up a lot of the frequencies. So that's the key driving element of really all of the systems that we've developed throughout the Catskills. We also look at candidate site opportunities, less so in sync with interconnect, but really the key driving element in your system design was the spectrum that we were going to use. And then given that, what we do is once we know the tools in the toolbox, and we also know what your operational needs are, we really look at bringing those two together and say, okay, how can we provide a system that meets those requirements? Okay.
We did, as Mark pointed out, we did surveys, we did meetings, and this is just highlights the results of the fire EMS survey. And as you can see, generally most of the fire responders or responded to the survey felt their system was in need of some help. And it was broken down for the fire and EMS services. Paging coverage is huge. If you can't get the page, you don't know you got to call. Portable coverage for fire is perhaps a little bit less, but the whole world is moving towards portable coverage. And mobile coverage was pretty good based on what we saw. Some of the issues that they brought out was a problem with in-building coverage. Yes, sir.
What's the difference in portable and mobile?
Mobile would be the radio that's fixed to your car, in your car, with an antenna on top of a car, such as like what would be on a fire truck or police car. And a portable is that portable radio that you literally pull out of your, off your belt and talk that way.
And generally the difference too is that a mobile might have 50, 100 watts with a higher gain antenna. Obviously you can have a longer antenna on top of your car, more power to connect it to the battery. portable. Obviously, there's a battery that you want to have, between 8 to 10 hours of life. So it's a lower wattage, 3, 5 watts. And then, of course, the antenna has to be usable, and so it's generally a shorter antenna. So really what that comes down to is portable coverage is worse than mobile coverage. Now, pagers they have a little antenna that you can't even see, so that's even worse yet. But where portable, you really see the difference is not so much the broadcast out. There's some difference, but really the talking back in, because obviously a 100-watt device sending a signal versus a 3-watt device sending a signal, much difference in coverage.
Prevail, all set? In law enforcement, we found that they were more happy with the system, but some of the problems that occurred with law enforcement with channel congestion, and that's you have more on-air traffic than you have channel capacity, so it's like people in a room all trying to talk at the same time. It can't happen in a radio environment. It's one transmission, one at a time, and typically on one channel. So with law enforcement, they had the same issues in building. Law enforcement typically is more centric or more focused on in-building coverage. You have a patrol officer that goes into a residential or a business situation on their own. So they tend to be more dependent upon that portable to be able to get back to radio for help or to radio for information. Need additional channels, and with all the respondents, be it fire, EMS, or law enforcement, there was I think vast majority of the respondents issued cost, the concern about cost and usability of the system.
And one other thing with law enforcement that wasn't a user need what we saw, generally, your county system is a dispatch system, and each little law enforcement agency has their own little system. So they're generally on another band, sometimes on another band. So it's a very fragmented, and the dispatching is not fragmented, but underneath it's very fragmented as far as how they interact.
We looked at the dispatch operations, very high level. Some of the things, you've got a legacy system that was probably very popular 40, 50 years ago. On your fire system, it's a VHF low band, which is a simplex system. There's a base station up on a mountaintop, there's a fire truck down in the valley, and the communications goes between the two, and there's a microwave or a wire line that connects that base station on the hilltop back to the dispatch center. No simulcast or non-simulcast. Simulcast is a technology that we use or is recommended so that all the transmitting sites in the county or in an area come up at the same time. So one of the problems with multiple or not being non-simulcast is when they're paging out for EMS pagers or fire tone pagers going off, they have to hit numerous towers to provide coverage for an area. So with a simulcast system, you only have to hit one button, all the towers light up at the same time. It makes it much more efficient, and it's much better coverage to the responders. EMS, same problem, limited channels for operations. There's channel congestion at times. They have the same problem with paging. You have to go from one tower to another tower to another tower on occasions for certain companies. And the law enforcement system, as Mark pointed out, is a 911 call delivery information system, but doesn't you better.
Yeah, it doesn't really look at the various local systems. So
Sorry about that.
and one of the large problems again with the fire service is again that simplex operation. Someone's talking in one side of the county, another person could be talking on the same frequency. Sometimes the dispatcher will get garbled information coming in. So simplex is something that was really came of age 50 years ago, and we see throughout New York it's being replaced. Low band is going away. Low band is a noisy spectrum. The simplex operation is really going away. The other problem with simplex, and this happened in Greene County, didn't happen in Ulster during the flood, but they actually lost their telephone lines up to their site. So they had no way, since simplex is a one-way communication, they had no way to get to the station sites anymore, so their dispatcher had no way to communicate to the people up on the upside on top of the hill. So there was 3-4 sites that they couldn't communicate with for an extended period of time because the phone company went out. You guys have a microwave system, which is a little bit more redundant, but a similar issue. If you had a microwave link go down, you'd have no way of communicating to those people in the field.
What's that?
So a little bit about the user requirement design goals. Clearly, better coverage. I mean, you have the environment's moving more towards a portable environment. Portable coverage with low band is, as you'll see, is very poor. With pagers is so-so, and so clearly you need better coverage throughout the area. Because if you can't send out that page or you can't communicate with the person, that's the basic requirement of the system. Improve communications efficiency. There's a lot going on those channels that you have. Sometimes you're paging out stuff and you're working a fire at the same time. Not recommended. I mean, the direction really is going, you have paging and alerting on one channel, you have communications on another channel. So you segment by use of what you're having. As you can imagine, you're trying to page something out, someone's trying to talk in at the same time, it gets very congested, especially when you get a number of incidents going on at a time. You don't recognize voices and it can get very congested and very difficult to understand. So we really, that really leads to the next thing is you really need more talk paths. So generally the way systems are set up today is you have a paging channel or a dispatching channel, and then you're assigned a tactical channel. So if you're working a fire, you're working a law enforcement incident, you're not on the dispatching channel anymore. You're working on a separate channel that's just reserved for that incident, that event. And so that really creates the demand for more channels, and that's one thing we heard loud and clear by people is they want a system they can afford, not only on the county side but also on the subscriber side. So that affected some of the decisions on how we looked at the various bands when we were looking at 2 competing bands. We obviously decided towards the one that would be the most cost effective band for both the county and the user. Interoperability, again, trying to get everyone on the same band. Even within Ulster County, there's people that are dispatching on one band and then they have their little side systems for various fire departments. This happens all the time on the law enforcement side. So what we really envision when we bring together a trunk system is everyone will be on one similar system. That's been the trend for 15, 20 years in public safety communications. And then our little motto is operations engineering. So we always feel you should look at your operations and then engineer to the least complicated solution. Generally, we have the least problems with that. So we wanted something that's technically sound, technically robust, but also could do the job. And the second thing was expanded. You guys are going to spend a lot of money on this system, as you'll see, and it should be something that obviously lives the next 10, 15 years and can handle the capacity. Because that was a real concern of ours when we were looking at one of the bands. It was like, boy, we can almost do it with this little frequencies, but there's no chance of expansion. It excluded police or the law enforcement side. So that was really a decision to be more inclusive. A little bit about the bands, and again, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, the most important thing in this whole process was spectrum. It's the number one thing. If you don't have spectrum, you don't have a system. So we spent a lot of time on spectrum. The VHF low band, we don't recommend anybody staying there. There's limited equipment there. The noise, just ambient noise is growing. The tough thing about designing for VHF low band is computers are creating more noise. There's all kinds of increased noise in the environment, just because everything that has a CPU creates noise to.
And that's where your fire service currently is located, on low band.
So from a design standpoint, it's really tough to design, because in building, you might have an elevated noise level. Outside, you wouldn't have an elevated noise level, but in building, you would have to design for a greater standard. And therefore, so what do you design to? And it really blows up the number of sites that you have when you're trying to design that method. The other problem is it's getting worse. So you can design for a system today, 5 years, the noise level continues to elevate, and your system might not operate as well as it The next band of choice was really VHF high band. A lot of law enforcement is on VHF high band, but we looked long and hard with VHF high band. Actually, there was an effort with a number of counties in the Catskill Consortium. In the frequency world, there's two sides of the frequency. There's kind of the public side, which is the FCC mandates, and then there's the federal side, which is the NTIA. We went down and did a few trips to Washington to try to see if we could get some of that spectrum that the federal users were. Delaware County and a number of counties were involved in that effort. Didn't pan out. It has panned out in some states where there's larger federal presence, but the feds didn't feel there was enough federal presence in this area of New York to warrant sharing some of those frequencies. So again, but the last thing with VHF high band is it's badly congested. A number of the fire department or a number of law enforcement agencies are on that. They have you can imagine that if you're a law enforcement in a town or a village, you only need to cover that town or village. With the county system, we were trying to go across the county. So we try to license across the county, and we looked at basically every frequency in Ulster County. Looked at it, how it lined up spectrally. There was no VHF spectrum that wasn't encumbered. And this is common throughout this region of New York. We've had zero luck with VHF high band in this area of New York. The next band was UHF, which again is a good band. A lot of counties are using UHF. Again, a spectrum issue. We went and we looked at frequencies that were non-traditional stuff, that were aging frequencies. That again, we looked at the normal stuff you look at, which is Part 90 stuff. Then we looked at some non-normal stuff, which is aging frequencies that some people were buying. We looked with the people that we talked to, is going to be between 2 and 3 million to buy 5 or 6 channels of UHF, which we felt wasn't enough spectrum to accommodate what your requirements were. When we were looking at the 10 days in the past, and you'd have to negotiate with 3 or 4 different sellers, because where you guys sit, you're right at the corner of 3 intersections of 3 spectrum allocations at UHF. So it would have been a messy process. Plus, it was very limited. We felt too limited in frequencies. The next bands were 700-800 megahertz. 700-800, plenty of spectrum available. The project that New York State was going to do, SWIM, was built on 700-800. That project's no longer in existence. They've given back the frequencies. So in Ulster County, you have plenty of 7 and 800. 700 is a newer band. There's a requirement in about 4 or 5 years to upgrade to a different technology in a sense, or migrate to a different technology, which would cost you guys probably double the cost in subscribers. So what we really looked at was, again, to try to stay at that 800 side, so that the subscriber cost would be less expensive, and also the system cost would be less expensive. You can see this is a little bit about low band coverage, and this is with moderate noise. The red outline, which is kind of difficult to see, but if you can point that out. That's basically Ulster County. With mobile coverage, it's okay, and you can see with portable coverage, that's quite poor. And that's pretty common throughout New York with low band. You get in high noise environments or even moderate noise environments, it shrinks the low band. Plus, you guys don't have very many sites out there for low band. So I mean, it's a system of a different age. A little bit about current design standards that we generally design to. This is what we use in Saratoga County. So base their system on mobile coverage. Generally, the standard is 90 to 95% mobile coverage. There are some people that are using portable coverage as a general guideline. Saratoga was mobile coverage. We kind of looked at mobile coverage here for our high-level mark, as far as trying to get 95% mobile coverage in the main area of the county.
Should explain the 95% what that means.
Oh, 95% coverage means you have good, clear audio across 95% of the area that you're trying to look at, or you're trying to paint in a sense. So with the contour that we draw out, 95% of the audio and the communication will be good. Does that mean you don't have any coverage in other areas that aren't painted? No, it just means that it's degraded audio. There will be some areas where you won't have any coverage, but in general, that's just included out here. So, with Ulster County, you guys were kind of special, because you guys are, again, you guys have that 87 corridor, which is obviously a lot of population, very similar to Green, and then you got this area to the west of you that's lightly populated. In looking at that, and we work with Delaware County and Sullivan, Denning basically dispatches most of your fire and EMS for Sullivan County.
Sullivan,
and then Delaware County does Hardenburg. So we looked at that area, and this was quite a bit of discussion on this. Do we want to cover it? How we want to cover it? And we kind of took a similar approach in Saratoga, where Saratoga, if you go south of, there's a little mountain range that kind of starts at the start of the Adirondacks, and you go north of there, there's a reservoir, and then you go north of there, and there's basically trees. There's one road that leads out of the northern part of Saratoga County. Other than that, it's like 5–10 miles of just trees. So in Saratoga County, the plan that we had was we'll cover the lower part of it, 95% mobile coverage. We'll cover the populated area, which is kind of a summer area for the Sacandaga Valley region, and then the rest of it we'll leave it as VHF coverage. And so we kind of took a similar approach here, where the Route 28 corridor, obviously a very important corridor going up into Delaware County and the Catskills, we drew that out as an important area to cover, and then also up to Frost Valley, up to the Boy Scout camp, and then also the main 87 corridor. We have that drawn out. So a little bit about just going back to the options that we looked at. We looked at all four of these options and multiple systems within the options. The first one was just improve current system. You really can't improve it, because the more low band sites you add, all you're doing is, remember we talked about sequential paging, since low band you can't simulcast. So if you had more sites, then instead of doing 3 pages sometimes, now we'll have to do 6 or 7. And so now that channel that was congested with 2 or 3 page outs for a fire incident, when you get to 6 and 7, will become unusable. So really, low band doesn't allow itself to be fixed, and also the low band is just getting more noisy. So we just eliminate based on the technology and the ability to really migrate for the future. Option 2 was same band for all the frequencies. Really, we eliminated the VHF high band and UHF because we couldn't find the spectrum. There's no spectrum out there at UHF and VHF that meets this wide area coverage. Okay, spotted areas of VHF, sure, but not a wide area coverage across the county. 700, we looked at that again. We had the choice between 700 and 800. We looked at both of those bands that have spectrum available. So we decided to obviously go with the less expensive option that gave as many features and functions as the 700 but didn't have that requirement to move to the higher cost subscribers in 4 or 5 years. There was a couple other options. Split band by service and area were eliminated by various reasons. So a little bit about the design. As you can see, Denning and Hardenburg are really focused on using Sullivan County and Delaware County to cover those areas for law enforcement. Will continue to have to be covered by VHF up there. But you can see the mobile coverage, we did meet the 95% requirement with this. So you'll have we feel greatly improved coverage in the majority of Ulster County. And
this is with a 14 site design, so if you added more sites, you could fill in more of the spots. But as you keep adding sites, you get a diminishing return. Each site adds less and less and less coverage to your constellation.
And you'll see the biggest improvement is really portable coverage. And portable coverage, we were in the high 80s, so around 80–85%. So this was kind of the design we recommend. And again, as Lee was saying, when you start filling in sites, you really start getting diminishing returns for those additional sites. Well, the strategy we've done for a couple counties, we've done this for Saratoga and Tompkins, is where we will add maybe 1 or 2 sites where people feel they really need them. However, the coverage maps show, maybe you'll not coverage today, but we usually test them. First we test them after the system's installed, then you add them as optional sites. And in both cases, Tompkins and Saratoga County, they didn't need the additional sites. So that's that's something we, you know, if there's areas that people are looking at that we need better coverage there, we could look at additional sites or optional sites.
Sure.
Could you just go over that, when you're talking about diminishing returns, adding sites, diminishing returns, you talking about per site, or you talking about
Per site.
overall?
So let's say 14 sites get you 88%. You might add one more site, is like for mobile, let's say you're at 95% with 14 sites. You might add one more site and it'll get you 0.2% more, okay?
So you do increase it, but it's just.
You do
Yeah,
increase it,
it's
but
not-
it's.
it's not a payback.
That's the heartache.
Correct. For $1 million, you go for the 0.2% coverage. At some point, you say, okay, we met the coverage requirement, and we feel this is adequate coverage. And a lot of times, we're pretty conservative on our models. The vendors are usually conservative on their predictions. So what we like to do is add one or two sites, have them costed out, so we know what the additional cost will be. And then after we put in the initial focus sites, we say, okay, do we have the coverage we want? In both cases, we've done a system in Compton, we did that strategy in Saratoga. In both cases, they didn't install the additional site.
Sure.
And looking at that map and trying to generally figure it out, it seems like the Mohonk Preserve is an area that does not have coverage.
That's, what, down in,
No, New Falls.
oh yeah, New Paltz.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
down
that
in there.
white area is going toward like that. That looks like the shape of the ridge.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are, there's a lot of things going on there that.
I know, my wife loves it, yeah.
That, the visitor activity,
Yeah.
the
Well, the,
recreational things that may need emergency services because of risk involved.
the thing of it is, this doesn't mean that there's no coverage. It's that it doesn't meet the threshold of quality coverage.
And the other thing that sometimes very difficult, what's happening there is actually, the tower site is actually set on the side of the hill. Sometimes, what we tried to do is pick somewhat realistic tower sites here, okay? These haven't all been vetted because there's a whole land use process that goes through the whole thing. But what we tried to do is pick sites where there was existing sites there already. We felt there was a good chance of getting a site. And what happens in New York, especially, we dealt with the EPA for a number of years in Saratoga, is there's this balancing act is, you'd really like to put the site on the top of the hill, but how many years do you want to take to try to get that site on the top of the hill? So you have to sometimes moderate your RF propagation goals with the reality of zoning land. And with this site, we probably could, with that said, I'm sure we could get a better coverage if we put it up on top of the ridge, okay? If there's a tower, if there's potential to do it. But generally, there's environmental, there's a lot of environmental things, so we try to be realistic in our placing of our sites. Now, that's something we could look at specifically, but a lot of times that happens.
Well,
And the
just so I have a picture of it, and
Yep.
I apologize that I don't know a lot about this.
Sure.
If you have someone who's rock climbing and has an accident,
Mhm.
how do communications currently work, and how might they be working better with a new system?
Well, our number one focus was coverage. So you can see when we go back a few slides, you saw the portable coverage, which was, I would say, somewhere around 20%, maybe 10, 15% in the county with portable. So
Right now.
Right now, so now you're up to 85%. So your chances of having coverage in an area where someone would have an accident are increased. That's how the system works.
Even if it's within that white area?
Yeah, and again, this is a preliminary design. If there's areas of great concern, we can always look at those areas if there's areas, right? That wasn't really brought up as when we initially looked at this map as an area of great concern. But again, there's a balancing act that will go on. Is okay, we could cover that slice of land, but we're going to have to go up here, or we're going to have to go here, and sometimes it's viewed as too sensitive of area to put a tower site there. We've run into that a number of times.
So you can do it. It's how much do you want to go through to cover that area, and at this point, which is just a proposed design, conceptual design, you've got the flexibility to move sites around.
And we try, I mean, we've developed enough sites that we try to look at sites from a couple of things. Number one, actually placing the site there without a lot of opposition, okay? Although, you know, the county doesn't have to, is exempt from a lot of the local zoning issues. We still wanna be a good neighbor. The second thing is cost of building a site. There's no road up to that hill on the top of the site. That might be a $2-3 million road to get to the top of the site. So, and obviously, generally people say, you know what, we'd be better off putting a site here, and we'll live with the whole site. So, it's a little bit of a balancing act. So.
Okay.
Can I,
Sir.
just trying to understand, the title here is Shandaken Route 28, and underneath it's 14-site design. Are we saying that green area is covered from Shandaken since this is?
No.
Okay,
No, there's.
site, I'm confused with your heading, and what I think this is all of the coverage in the county is here.
Correct.
But I'm not sure why it says site coverage Shandaken Route 28 is a header.
Oh, it's probably wrong. Should say coverage, county coverage, correct.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so that has
sorry about
nothing
that.
to do with it.
Good-
Sorry about that.
good
Yeah,
catch.
It's, yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here trying to
Yeah.
figure out what.
That was to see if you were watching, yeah. Yeah, that's all the county coverage.
Okay.
And you'll see couple of the things we've done to try to reduce the cost is like, for example, Thunder Hill, Wardsboro, they actually do a pretty good job of covering into your county, into Ulster County
Well,
from Sullivan.
Okay, one other, I wanna follow up on, just so
Yep.
that I understand it.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna say it because I just didn't understand it in the relationship to Ken's question.
Sure.
Is that if somebody does get hurt on the mountain, this doesn't help unless they have portable units, not a telephone, right?
Correct, but there's always other ways. I mean, there's, with your radio, let's say someone does get hurt and you wanna relay a message in. You can always go simplex, which is basically, you can talk radio to radio. So if I'm on the.
Yeah, but if they're alone and hiking and.
Oh, no, this is for police, fire, and
Right,
EMS.
they're
Yeah,
just
this is-
intercommunicating, so when he's talking about the hiker.
Nobody's talking about your cell
Cellular
coverage.
Yeah,
So this is, I got it.
Yeah.
this is just for
This
emergency
isn't that.
services.
Understand, well,
So-
it got me confused
Yeah.
with just the hiker, so it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
Sites like public areas, how did you pick the site?
What we generally try to do is, we look at sites that you currently already were using, that's the areas you currently already use. All of your sites you're gonna have to upgrade, because they're all of, what I call a vintage site. But we looked at areas where you already had sites, because usually zoning a site or just getting a site to be regulatory is easier that way. Usually there's lower the power that's going to the site. And then we looked at other areas where there's cellular sites also around. So we tried to pick sites where we felt lower opposition. We also looked at sites that were in adjacent counties. For example, the two in Sullivan County help you guys out quite a bit.
They look into your county pretty good.
Yeah. And a few of these sites, like the Rose Mountain site that's up towards the end by Pine Hill, that's gonna probably be a joint development site with the Catskill Consortium. We're originally gonna be locating that on Bel Air, but Bel Air is forever wild, a forever wild area, and they won't let you build a tower next to their mosquito. So we're looking at another hill. We're looking at another hill that covers into the 42 area, which is a tough area to cover, and also covers down 28. And really, 3 counties will probably be able to use that cover site.
Sure.
How does the site for working with cats?
Well, it depends upon the system.
No, what we're using right now.
I would have to go through the list. It's 5 or 6.
All right.
Fire is 4.
4 sites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's always a significant increase in Saratoga. We went from 5 sites to 12 sites. In Delaware County, we're going from 5 sites to 9 sites, but they're at a different band, VHF high band. Or I should say Sullivan
UHF.
County. In Delaware County, they're at UHF, and they're looking at going from 6 or 7 sites to probably 14, 15 sites. So as you go up basically higher in band, you need more sites. Ideally, we would have been at a different, maybe at VHF high band or UHF, but we just wasn't this time. little bit about the pros, we kind of went through a lot of this. You know, 800 is a good band that works up in Saratoga. It's worked in a lot of areas throughout the country. You know, it's the big, you know, there's interoperability. Orange County is going to go 700, 800. For sure, that's the only stuff that they have left as well. They're in a, you know, they're in a probably expensive environment, so you guys are by a little bit. But we picked the 800 band because it says lower subscriber cost compared to 700. A little bit about system costs, and these systems have been sold over the last 6 or 7 years. So a lot of these systems, so you kind of get a feel for. And this excludes the subscriber cost, so this doesn't include subscriber costs. So you can see that, you know, counties like Madison, which are obviously smaller, Oswego County, Saratoga, they're all solid real money to upgrade their systems. Broome County is looking at a $30+ million system. Delaware, I mean, we were at Sullivan County today. They're looking at essentially to be able to VHF high band, use a little different technology. They're looking at 10, 11 million for their systems. Sure.
My question is, Onondagas County is high, and I know that they were the leader in a consortium of counties up there. Is that what's driving their cost, or is there?
No, they just had their coverage requirement was pretty significant, and they had a greater coverage requirement in Syracuse. So their segment was quite high. Plus,
More sites, more money.
and plus they have a lot of repeaters. So there's some gain in as far as sharing the network. We kind of looked at that. We're not sure about the great benefit of that because there's a lot of liability that really the effective way to do that if you're going to share equipment is somehow to come together generally as like I'm from Minneapolis, St. Paul, they created a 7-county radio, okay, and then people fund the radio in Onondaga County. It's going to be interesting how they mitigate some of these. One county wants to upgrade, another county doesn't. Well, they're all tied together on the same version of software, so it's
Because in terms of the counties around us, right now Ulster County is centrally located, and all of the counties around us, the only one that's moving forward with that, if anything, is Sullivan. Dutchess hasn't even started, but everybody else, we're all in about the same boat. And I'm just wondering if your presentation is going to address that at all,
Well, the other counties-
pros of teaming up with other counties, of a consortium.
Well, there's already been I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but Ulster County's in 2 consortiums. There's the Catskill Consortium, which you guys applied for a grant last year, were successful in, I don't know, what, 800,000, or was it
578.
Okay. And then we applied again for another grant, which was, I don't know, 500,000, 600,000. So they're in a consortium. The problem you have in this area is because of the spectrum, it's very difficult because it's all be on the same spectrum. Plus the population density is so different. 87 corridor compared to Delaware County, the population is much different. And we ran into that. We were looking at actually southern tier. Delaware County is part of the southern tier. Broome County has 287 people per square mile. Delaware County is like 34 people per square mile. So obviously different
But
capabilities.
Dutchess is right across the river.
Dutchess, we don't see doing any.
They haven't done
Art, you
anything,
can
that's
maybe
what I'm
address
saying.
this a little bit better with as far as Dutchess's view with because the 2 counties.
Yeah, each county has looked at their own unique needs and their own unique capabilities. Dutchess has positioned itself over the last few years where they have a pretty strong infrastructure in the UHF bandwidth, okay? Other counties, as Marcus pointed out, our neighbors, Sullivan was able to get the VHF spectrum. They're gonna go that route. Delaware's in a different route, going a different route, okay? We know that Orange is gonna go the 7-800 route. So we're gonna have to have something that's an interoperable platform that we can work together with, but our main focus has to be on taking care of our own emergency services and our own providers. That has to be goal 1. And then achieving that interoperability may only happen on a couple of different channels. It may not happen on every single frequency. You know, we're able to communicate with those neighbors on certain channels, and that probably will be sufficient for most calls, okay? but I think our focus has definitely gotta be on our own people.
So the big problem you guys have with creating a kind of a homogeneous large system is spectrum. You know, there's Sullivan got VHF, but that can't be expanded across the region. Yeah, you know, Dutchess is UHF, but they can't get UHF spectrum. So it's a little bit every man for itself as far as from a spectrum standpoint. And most people felt, you know, as I articulated that, let's worry about interoperability first, as opposed to kind of paying more for a greater interoperability. You know, greatest interoperability system that you could have do from a spectrum standpoint would everybody in the reasonable use it. But that would balloon Delaware's system cost to
Astronomical.
30 million and Sullivan's to 20 million. And so when the counties individually look at it, they go to, okay, what's best for our interoperability needs, and then look at how we can patch things together interoperability wise. So, and the problem's really in New York City, so so that's the real difficult situation there in the spectrum.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm trying, those are obviously very, very big, numbers, particularly given the situation we face. Those numbers, are those numbers for the total system, including what local responders, use, or is that just the county portion?
These numbers are generally, these numbers are the infrastructure costs, okay?
The county portion.
County infrastructure costs, correct.
And then to the local, police and fire and other entities,
We have a slide, we have a slide
We have
coming
a
out.
slide that addresses that.
Yeah, we-
So where does their funding?
Everyone does it a little bit different. Some people are, you know, the individual agencies have to fund themselves. Some people, like in Saratoga's case, Hopkins County's case, they bought X amount of radios for the fire departments and law enforcement. And other than that, you know, everyone does it a little bit differently. And we kind of view it as whether it comes out of the local fire department or county the county budget, similar people pay for it, you know, one way or another. You're gonna pay for the subscriber cost.
That's,
So
it's always an issue in finding that right balance, or, you know, is always a local challenge.
Are there grants for this?
There's, on the fire side, there's the,
Fire Act grant.
Fire grants, which probably many of your departments get. They can use the money for a variety of things. There's a grant program in New York State for interoperability. It's Mark and Art were talking about before, where they take the cellular surcharge money and they've set up this competitive grant program. So you're competing against other counties in New York State to get your own money back. And that's up to, what was that this year, 30?
Combined total, I believe, is gonna be 75.
Yeah.
First one was 40.
So there are some grants there, but, you know, it's the luck of the draw, and
You said that we're competing, what are we competing?
against other counties.
In what way? What can we do to be, more competitive?
Well, the intent of the grant.
Mark, I'll take that one. Okay. The problem with the state surcharge is that on everyone's cell phone bill, Ulster County has passed a local law. You're paying 30 cents per month on your cell phone, your personal digital device. New York State has put on $1.20. Okay, and out of the literally over $200 million per year that is collected from that surcharge, they give back but a pittance to the individual counties. There is $9.9 million of that 200 plus that is earmarked, and they have a formula that's set up based on population and other information, and that amounts to about $100,000 a year for Ulster, just under 100. Okay, the rest of it is a competitive grant program. This year they have increased it to two different pots of money. One is about $45 million, the other one's going to be $30 million. But it's competitive. We're competing against other counties for the money that is designed for our purpose. So from a legislative point of view, to get the state to change the way that the surcharge is distributed would be extremely beneficial to all municipalities, okay? The rest of that money, the rest of the $200 million is going off into other parts of the state budget. So that is a crucial area that legislatures throughout the state are constantly attacking their state representatives on, and that it's an unfair and unequitable distribution of a surcharge and for a service that's being provided at the county level.
The Catskill Group was actually
Is
awarded.
there trade-in value for what we have?
Oh, your existing equipment?
No,
So,
just scrap value now, but, one of the, you know, again, when we applied for the grants last year, the Catskill Group actually was awarded collectively the most of all the grants. One of the problems with the grant that we see is that there's not really clear direction from the state always as how it's gonna store it, how it's gonna be applied. So that it's a little bit challenging to do it. So what we've been trying to do with the Catskill Group, and I think we've been pretty successful, is really focus on what we feel there are, and I think we're pretty aligned with what many of the people in the DHS office feel. You know, really the next step I would see for like for Ulster County with your system with the, since we've looked at how you're doing it with the Catskill, maybe just look at how you can deal with, again, this is a not the finance now, maybe how you could create a consortium with another county such as the community county.
Well, that's why I was able
You
to
know,
consortium,
so-
because I know that that makes more grant dollars available to us, and I don't know if you're gonna address this, but this is just not something that we're thinking of going to want to, this is gonna be required by law. What are the dates that we try?
This isn't, this update.
She's talking narrowband.
This isn't narrowband, this doesn't have, there's no requirement to post upgrade, other than there's a narrowbanding initiative that's on VHF, and that's something that's different, and I think you guys are well positioned for that.
Okay.
So there's no requirement for you guys to upgrade other than, you know, a lot of times if you don't do it, they'll take that 800 inspection, we actually went out, one of the things that we did to make sure you had that option, because, you know, other than looking at it Orange County, and a few others, the MTA, and New York State Police actually as well. What we did is we went out and we actually licensed 4 or 5 sections throughout the county, so that when you actually make your decision, that option is still available. Because what commonly happens, well, it has never happened with us, but I've seen it happen in other counties. They come over the plan, go through the whole thing, make the decision, then go to license inspection, and it's not there, someone else took it. So we recommended, Art, almost with, kind of the recommendation that we should go and license inspection. So for a small amount of money, we were able to procure that spectrum, and so that you guys have that option at 800.
And the narrowband, on that?
The narrowbanding takes place at VHF and UHF, and then in the wisdom of the FCC, it really doesn't buy you anything. It just costs people money, because what they did was they narrowbanded, but by the way the channels are spaced, you don't get any benefit until you go to, it was originally, one of our guys is actually an old timer, and I remember when it went from 50 to 25 kilometers, now it's going to 12 and a half. That's the new current narrowbanding. And you really don't get any additional spectrum if you go to 6 1/4, and there's no timeline for 6 1/4. So we never quite understood the FCC's position on narrowbanding, how it's gonna help anybody. We see no benefit from spectral capacity on narrowbanding. Yeah, that's a different effort. Where are you guys at narrowbanding? We weren't really too involved.
The county's
in that.
equipment we have licensed all of our frequencies that require it for narrowbanding. The county has purchased its equipment to be compliant with narrowbanding on 1113, and we've been in communication with all the field users that their equipment has to be compliant. We're gonna flip the switch on October 1st of this year, and we will start operating in a narrowband mode.
And one other question about the consortium, so we've kind of given conflicting information. The first time I asked about consortiums, it was kind of, well, they don't wanna do it, and they don't wanna do it, don't know which word. And then we got around to talking about grants, it was, well, if you wanna get a grant, you gotta,
The state has required us to be a recipient of a grant. You have to be a member of a consortium. So while we are members of two different consortiums, we're leveraging that power as being a member of the consortium to obtain equipment that meets the requirements of the grant, but at the same time is also moving Ulster County forward towards a new radio system, whether it be this or something else. So we're trying to make the most of our opportunities in the
One of the problems
consortiums.
with the consortium was, again, the Catskill consortium came together very well, okay, but Ulster's kind of a border county on the consortium, so really the Dutchess probably aligns with you best, kind of like with me in Columbia County, but there hasn't never been a consortium created with those counties. And you're also part of the Hudson Valley Consortium, which Dutchess is a part of, but just different consortiums really, how would I put it?
Different personalities.
Have different personalities and work better and kind of work more closely together. HVICC, which is the kind of southern area, you got Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Dutchess, and so there's not quite the synergy that we see in the Catskill Consortium. And the Catskill Consortium, I think, has worked very well. Ulster's been a good, nice contributor to that, and I think they've been, again, they were awarded the most dollars, not only for county basis, but on a consortium basis in the last round of grants. So, again, these consortiums are kind of they seem to, the Catskill one seemed to be truly what the whole consortium process was about. We see a lot of them just morphing together for the benefit of obtaining dollars to build up the system, okay? And in the future, you guys could look at, maybe lining up with me or lining up with Columbia, or not Columbia, but Dutchess. But again, when we looked at that, Dutchess is in a different cycle. They're pretty set with their system. They're pretty comfortable with their system. They're not upgrading their system. So what's your opportunity to create a consortium with them? Plus you're in a different band now than they are. So it's kind of difficult sometimes because you have counties with different timelines, different bands, and what they perceive as different requirements. So going on to the cost, really this is the cost slide that you don't want to, we haven't talked about this yet. When we looked at the total site and system cost, really Ulster County has very few sites that they can reuse, so basically they're rebuilding all of your sites, rebuilding all 14 of those sites. It's kind of a worst case scenario, plus the microwave network. You have a microwave network that's kind of a thin root system, and an upgraded system, you're going to have to be much more robust and have a lot more capacity.
More redundancy.
More redundancy. And basically all the site stuff and the interconnect stuff, this is every county we've ever worked with does this very same, these are pretty basic upgrades. And then when we looked at the radio system, one thing we had an opportunity to do in Ulster County, which we don't have in other counties, is things went pretty smooth, so we were able to go through our request for information process. And so we were able to refine some of the numbers and look at some of the costs better. So through the RFI process, we refined the system cost number. So we feel the total cost is a pretty good number for an 800 system. One thing that's a lot, the total system cost is a large number, but also there's also a trend in radio system world to become more IS based, more computer equipment, which means in general more higher maintenance costs. And so the yearly maintenance costs have greatly increased in radio systems. And that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. We always recommend when we do an RFP that you go 10 years to maintenance, 10 years out for maintenance, so you can understand what your present value of your system is. Because it used to be a small component of radio system cost. Now it's a large component, so you should really understand that long-term maintenance cost. So again, that's a bigger number. You can see the system cost, and then the radio subscriber units. This is just an average cost of a truck radio between $1,500 to $2,000 to $4,000 depending on the flavor. Quite a bit different than what you're paying today, which is $600 to $1,000 per subscriber. Yep.
The end user costs. The end user cost, is that for all services, fire, EMS, and police?
That's for all services. Generally, like, for example, police might have a dual band radio. We each have 800 their radio would be more expensive. Fire, what we implemented in Saratoga is a portable around $1,600. There's some vendors, that are right around the $1,000 level, but that's for a real basic radio. So we kind of try to blend it together, because what we try to recommend is that fire service all buys the same type of radio, mobile and portable, so that's a training. You don't have 12 different flavors of radio, you're trying to change that. 'Cause every radio does, every vendor's radio, even within vendors, work a little differently. So this represents kind of an average cost. So it's probably a little bit high cost for radios, but it's a realistic cost.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm looking at the P25 trunk radio, 3,000 units at a cost of $2,400 a unit.
Yeah, there was $3,000 a unit, 2,400 units.
Yeah, but it's.
It's still gonna come out totally different. It's
Should be
7,200,000.
7.2. Should be 7.2.
Right.
Yeah, so it's 7.2 million, not 9 million.
Not 9
Okay,
million.
yeah, okay, yep.
It's a small difference, I realize,
Well,
but
no,
you know,
no, it's
I mean,
a
it's just,
very
just only
tough-
Should that be
1.8 million.
Should that be 7.2 million?
The math is 7.2.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's 7.2.
That should be
yeah.
7.2
Yeah.
million, and then plus 560
Yep.
would be then 760.
Yeah, that is incorrect. We went through this a few times. I'm glad, but, sorry about that. Yeah, so
It's
that-
only math, it's okay, don't worry.
Well, I'm trying to make sure.
Huh?
Close enough.
You're watching.
Are you gonna have that spreadsheet available for us, or?
Corrected one.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll get it out to everybody.
Electronically, not in paper, right?
Right now.
Excellent. I gotta do this for Rob, since Rob's not here.
Eric, what we see as a timeline of counties that are looking at, radio systems because of the frequency stuff is that they finished procuring the frequencies. Again, that preliminary procurement of the frequencies this fall. We have a second round going on now with some of the 800 frequencies. And realize there's windows in when you can apply for these. So there's a window in the spring. The next window is open November 24th. So there's the regional committee that monitors the frequencies. They have timelines where we can send it in. So even if we wanted to send it in, it's just not gonna have to wait. So we applied for one grant for 800 frequencies. We're applying for a second grant just to ensure you guys have a
I have
sense of both those.
I have a question. One of your earlier slides, you showed all the counties and what the cost to those counties was.
Yes.
Can you bring that back up?
Sure.
And I would like to know, in those costs, that's the one. Can you tell me the grants that came roughly into those things, and how much was the county paying for, and how much was a grant paying for? So I'm trying to get it. The last slide, I think what I saw was $20 million for the county and maybe 9.5 for the end users.
7.2.
Yeah, the two we work closely with, Tompkins and Saratoga, had no grant.
No grants. So that's total county money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we keep talking about the grants, and I'm trying to.
Well, and I think the grants, currently under the current environment, I would, again, it was stated this number of times, I would say a high water mark for grant-wise would be, if you can get 20-30% of your system paid for, that would be a very good day for grant payment.
Well, how did they do? Did they get, anybody get that year?
No, again, we worked with Saratoga and Tompkins County, and they didn't get anything.
I see.
They might have got a fire grant for a few radios here and there, but
Okay.
nothing of substance.
So what I guess we're asked to consider is the next to last slide you showed, and I think that was.
That's the order of magnitude.
Right, so it's like 20 million for the county and 10 million for the subscribers.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Minus whatever that difference.
Obviously, as you get more into it, you can boil those numbers down more.
Oh, I'm just trying to say that's a presentation. Am I understanding the presentation correctly?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes.
Is the 800 system interoperable with the state police radio system?
So that's an interesting question. State Police is now working on like 3 band, I think they're working on a VHF high band, which is a primary frequency forever.
Right.
Okay? They also have VHF equipment in 800, so they have all 3 radios in it, as you can imagine.
The state police typically work on the system of the county that they're particularly in. If they've got to buy 800 megahertz radios to get into a system, they buy 800 megahertz radios of a certain flavor.
And build a cabinet.
Yeah.
For example, in Saratoga, they all put in 800 radios. So state police has a real problem because, as you can imagine, their troops go across these counties and they have, you know, even in this area, 3 bands. And so it's getting worse for the state police as opposed to better.
Right.
So it's a
Yeah.
difficult situation. So.
And the same thing would be true for like Park Police,
Right.
DEC, NCON.
Yep.
Yeah.
DEP.
DEP.
Yeah.
DEP seems to have their own system.
Another story.
Yeah. Well, you have all those groups working kind of in isolated. DEP is generally a UHF. They have their own UHF system out there. State police is at VHF. Parks is at VHF. Always at UHF. It's
Thruway is
Thruway
UHF.
Yeah, Thruway is at UHF. So there's MTA is going to go at 700-800. I know they don't affect you. But
There's a whole other part that we could get into about interoperability frequencies. The federal government set aside some interoperability channels so that, you know, the county would have a VHF interoperability channels, UHF 800, so that, you know, if you had a state trooper on the thruway, they could get into the communication center through these national interoperability channels. That's kind of a subset of the design, and but there is some provisions for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on the cost? A little bit about the timeline again. What we would see is a timeline of Ulster County decided to move forward. And again, we're in the process of doing the necessary frequencies. The site acquisition stuff, that can be a lengthy process. Usually it's a 6 to 9 month process in general. Takes some, you know, the site acquisition, there's the regulatory process, that's a lot of federal regulations behind it, that's tied up with frequencies. In 2013 would be what we look at is you build the sites and you build the microwave, which is kind of the phone lines between the sites first, and then you would put the radio system on top of that. So what we like to do is we like to start that process ahead of time. We do an RFP sometime in 2013. Look at building out your sites and the microwave, and then around 2014, 2015 is when we install your radios. It's a multi-year, it's a 2 or 3 year process, generally mostly dictated by, other than funding, by site acquisition and how quickly we can get back together. I know Saratoga County, we came in there like 2006 or 7, and they had been working on the APA for 7 years. And I don't think you guys have those issues here, because I can have done the site don't have those issues, but it can be a longer process.
It's going to be arduous.
So again, next steps, you know, close in next steps is, you know, finalize the STC hundred, so that'll be a holding pattern. We generally do those at what we call slow growth, so we have a few years to build out, 2 or 4 years to build out those sites. Again, we're pretty close to that already. You know, this is a big decision, so people should go through the operation, and we're confident that'll meet the operational abilities. We're doing a couple more meetings with the fire and law enforcement and EMS later in the month or next month, just to kind of go over through this same thing. And really the biggest question is the funding mechanism. That's always the most challenging. Generally the most challenging. In some places it's well, in the case frequencies are very difficult with the funding mechanism. Certainly a lot of work. Any other questions or comments?
Have everybody's attention now.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, September 19th at 7 p.m. Tuesday is a holiday. I don't think we have to officially adjourn, so it's informational.